Yes,
Yes.
sir. The Bills are 2-0, baby. Welcome in to the Built-in Buffalo post-game show. I'm President Lance Nelson. In the middle here is our co-founder, Akeem Richins. If you don't know him or us by now, get to know us. Stealing the line right out of his mouth because I love it so much. And over there, all the way over there, over that way, whatever. Peter DiBiase, NBC Sports. Sir, how we doing this night?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. When I got your text, I was like, yeah, why not? And also, I'm the type of person when the Bills play, like at a Monday night, Thursday night, Sunday night, I can't sleep like after. I got to get up tomorrow to go to work tomorrow, but
Yes,
I
sir.
won't be able to sleep for another hour and a half anyway. So why not? Why not talk some Bills with you guys?
Yeah, most
Appreciate the
definitely,
time
man.
as always, bro.
Yeah, shout out Peter DiBiase. Appreciate the time. It's an exciting time, for us as Buffalo Bills fans. We're off to a nice 2-0 start. Quick turnaround after defeating the Arizona Cardinals. And when we played the Arizona Cardinals, we came with that little scare, right? Because we was down 17-3 early. So we started to question ourselves a little bit in terms of what kind of team we have and what type of resiliency they can show early the start of the season. And they showed that resiliency against the Arizona Cardinals, and now it was like a trickle effect leading down to the Miami Dolphins, and having this victory and doing it like this in this dominating fashion when the reporters and the beat writers was down to Miami throats all week about how the Buffalo Bills been dominating them, and they know they have to get over the hump. And for the Buffalo Bills to still put on this type of performance, it is a very impressive one, and I'm ecstatic over this victory.
I agree. I think Akeem, you're right. Like most of the national media, right? We're on Miami. Most people were picking Miami. If you look at the betting odds, right? Miami was 2.5 point favorites, right? And it originally started at 1.5, and the money went towards Miami. So the national public was on Miami. And if you watch the Thursday night uh whoever does it, prime pregame show, everyone but Ryan Fitzpatrick picked Miami. Shout out Ryan Fitzpatrick. But it's kind of the thing where like you're in Miami, right? The Bills are technically supposed to be taking a step back. This is supposed to be Miami's, maybe not a year, but this is supposed to be your Miami and the Jets take over the division. And you go into their house and basically embarrass them, right? And I don't even think the Bills played their best game on a couple of the phases, right? Like their passing game was good, didn't need to be anything great, didn't need to do anything special, but there's another gear there, right? And I think the defense could potentially be even better. And you walk away with 31-10 win, and I think Miami's walking away with asking a lot of questions. And then we're probably going to wake up tomorrow, if you flip on First Take, if you flip on any Fox Sports 1 show, and they're going to be singing the Bills' praises after most of them were probably not picking the Bills tonight.
What about an NBC Sports show? No?
I don't know, man.
Shout out the guys.
Chris Sims, who works for NBC, who I've met a couple times, really cool guy, didn't have the Bills in his playoff predictions about a
Oh my
week and a half
God.
ago,
I
2 weeks
would
ago.
never talk to him again.
I can't really approach him because he's a little bit higher up than I am and all that kind of stuff. But he did not have the Bills in the playoffs. But I've talked to him a couple of times. He's a cool guy. He talked about Josh Allen a couple of times. But no, NBC Sports not super high on the Bills.
And that's
All right.
okay. That's okay, right?
Fine, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's exactly where we want to be. We want to play. We want to be under radar a little bit. We don't mind playing that underdog role, and let's get back into this game and what happened and how the Buffalo Bills dominated in this 31-10 victory. Let's get into initial thoughts. I'm gonna put something out there, and then I'm gonna get Lance to start it off. I think the defense set the tone in this game early and often, and that is why the Buffalo Bills was able to dominate in this physicality, in this facet and triumphed over the Miami Dolphins in this victory. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great defense. This scheme makes it a defense, guys, and we've been talking about this all off season, waiting to see this. All right, we got new pieces here and there. We lost some guys. Heck, we lost Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, and Teron Johnson for this game. Terrell Bernard in this game, and the defense still balls out. Why? Maybe we can start talking about how good of a coach Sean McDermott is instead of sitting there and belaboring the
Hmm.
fact that he can't win the big one when his
Yep.
Eagles have been learning moments that he's building upon in his career. But this game here shows you just what he's capable of. Mike McDaniel is an offensive genius, and he has no chance against Sean McDermott year in and year out with whomever Sean McDermott can find to play. Who did he have healthy against Miami when the division was on the line late last year? Didn't have all of his horses. Didn't have all of his horses tonight. Shut him down. 10 points for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah,
That
and I
player in this game being cooked because the Bills suffocate the Miami Dolphins playmakers after they touch the ball.
mm,
This is a master class performance by Sean McDermott tonight, and man, it feels good. It's certainly encouraging moving forward to see what he's doing with this group of guys.
Peter.
Yeah, 100%. And how good are Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford, right? Like it's not going to be talked about, right? Because they're not headline grabbers, right? Like no one's writing an article about, unless you're a Bills beat reporter, no national media guy is writing an article about Rasul Douglas or Christian Benford. No one's going on a show talking about Christian Benford and Rasul Douglas, right? Doesn't get the views, it doesn't get the clicks. Jalen Waddle, 4 catches for 41 yards. Tyreek Hill, 3 catches for 24 yards. Both those guys went over 100 yards last week against the Jaguars. Those guys, and it's also a combination, like you said, Lance, of the scheme and where McDermott and Bobby Babbage puts these guys in a position to make plays, right? And then you also them just making open field tackles, right? Like the way you lose to Miami and the way Jacksonville lost to Miami last week was just not tackling. Being able to tackle in space and tackle in the open field against Miami is the number one key to defeat them. And the Bills did that tonight. And then also shout out Jamarcus Ingram, right? I put a tweet out about half an hour ago, maybe when the game was kind of out of hand. And I said, what a 2-week stretch for this guy, right? Like a guy that was brought onto the Bills a couple years ago in 2022, undrafted free agent, couple elevations the last couple years, worked his way through the practice squad. And in the last 2 weeks, when his number's been called, he had the game stealing deflection against Greg Dortch last week against Arizona. This week, he has 2 interceptions, including a pick 6, which were huge momentum turners. And like we talked about this, and Lance, when we did our show together, I think you and I talked about it a ton, how good defensive backs play under Sean McDermott. There's something about defensive backs. Even Cam Lewis played great tonight in with Teron Johnson being out. And then like
Sure.
even at the end, look, I get it, Skylar Thompson's against backups, but Cole Bishop made one heck of a play at the end of the game. No one's gonna talk about it. There's 2 minutes left in the blow up, but just watching Cole Bishop go up and deflect that ball, you just see how good these defensive backs play. And then obviously Taylor Rapp was really good, and DeMar Hamlin was really good again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Buffalo Bills coaching staff do a great job getting their guys prepared for the game, and I understand that we tend to harp on the bigger games with the Kansas City Chiefs and losing to the Bengals and losing last year to the Chiefs, but we can't ignore some of the brilliance that our head coach presents for the Buffalo Bills, and that's the reason why we're able to have the success and sustain the success we had today. And I think that's part of Sean McDermott's philosophy in terms of progression and development, right? We talk about Jamarcus Ingram. He's been with the Buffalo Bills a number of years now. We talk about Cam Lewis. He's been with the Buffalo Bills for 6 seasons now. So he knows the Buffalo Bills defense, and he's able to progress and develop, and had the chance to have that stability to learn under one defense. How lucky is Cam Lewis not to play from defensive coordinator to defensive coordinator to try to pick up another scheme while trying to develop as well, right? So I think progression and development is a big part of some of the success we see today. And us as Buffalo Bills fans know Jamarcus Ingram and know Cam Lewis, but the outside world is now seeing guys that they're not familiar seeing making plays and continuing to make plays for the Buffalo Bills. And that's a proponent to what Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane and their staff implements and brought to the table when they became a part of the Buffalo Bills organization.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to describe like the appreciation for those guys, and it's just it's fun to see. It's fun to watch now, um, year in year out, and yeah, I don't have much more on that.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill, 3 receptions, 24 yards. Jalen Waddle, 4 receptions, 41 yards. They wasn't big factors in the game, and throughout the course of the game, you heard the commentators, talk about how big the Buffalo Bills cornerbacks are, and not only are they big, they're physical corners and they're ball hawks as well, right? Rasul Douglas is a pretty good athlete, and he's a big time playmaker as well. And I think Christian Benford is also one of those guys that has a knack for the ball and is a big time playmaker in his own right. Coming out of Villanova, doesn't matter how big or small his school was, he had 14 career interceptions coming out of college. So he has a knack for finding the football, and we're seeing that today. So I definitely have to shout out the cornerbacks for the Buffalo Bills, despite the injury of Teron Johnson in this performance. What about Ed Oliver? I think he had a big game in this game. Ed Oliver showed his worth in this game, and Von Miller as well was able to come off with another sack. Let's talk about the defensive line and what you thought about those guys.
Yeah, I think the fact that when you play Miami, right, it's hard to sack Tua just because of how quick their offense is, right? Everything is in the shotgun and everything's out quick, right? Because you want to get those playmakers the ball, right?
Mhm.
So it's more of pressures against Tua, in my opinion. Like we'll look at tomorrow the stats of like the in-depth stats from PFF and all the next gen stats when you get the pressures, and I think that's more against the Dolphins. But I thought outside of when Miami ran those, when I was watching my dad, we call them gadget plays, right? Like the end arounds, the short little passes. One guy goes in motion this way, the other guy goes in motion that way, misdirections, get guys in space. Outside of those plays, which are very hard to stop, and no one really knows how to stop them in the NFL, when Tua just had your traditional drop back pass, the Bills were very dominant, right? We saw 3 interceptions by Tua. One of them obviously was pressure that led to Jamarcus Ingram pick 6. And then a couple other ones were just not good balls, and the Bills played good defense. But I thought when Tua dropped back, Von Miller looked like, Lance, I texted you this. It looked like he had that 2021 Rams kind of step, right? Like, look, this isn't still not prime Von Miller from 2015 when the Denver Broncos went to the Super Bowl, but this is a Von Miller that I think we saw in the first 8 games he played when he first joined the Bills before he tore his ACL against Detroit, where he had 8 sacks heading into that game. Back-to-back weeks of sacks and back-to-back weeks of legit pressures. I forgot the stat Amazon Prime put on TV, but it was like his best pressure, I'm paraphrasing, but best pressure rate or something like that since 2021. And I think if you can get that type of Von Miller week in and week out, it just takes this pass rush to a different level, because I don't think AJ Epineta's had his best 2 games yet, and I still think there's room for him to grow this year. And then, look, Groot was really good last week with 3 sacks, didn't have any sacks tonight, but he had that great tackle against Skylar Thompson where he just came out of nowhere. But no, Ed Oliver was really good, and Von Miller were really good, and I think they made Tua's life a kind of like a living hell when he kind of dropped back throughout the night.
Yeah, it's 4 out of 20 pressure rate was 20%. 14 pass rushes against Austin Jackson, the right tackle from Miami, resulted in the 4 pressures that Vaughn was able to get. And it's good to see him looking a little bit like the Von Miller, like you said, pre-injury. And the more he gets comfortable, the more I think that continues to show, the more opportunities he's going to earn and gain throughout the year. They're still going to be situational because, I think they need to make sure he makes it to the playoffs, and they need to make sure that that's the goal. But, you're going to see his opportunities and the situations that they're going to be in. If they're going to play with a lead, especially, those passing situations are going to increase more and more. So I'm, like I mentioned, super ecstatic for the defense, for Vaughn, for those corners that you mentioned. These guys are all playing well. And then, Jamarcus Ingram comes in, 2 touchdowns, or 2 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown. Just incredible performance from the UB product. And this staff is getting such production out of these guys. And I was talking the other day, and I'm trying to think of who it was with. Anyway, I was talking with someone the other day, and they mentioned how it's so strange that these undrafted guys, these uh, you know folks that are unknown, come up into the Bills organization and can really put on these performances. Yet Brandon Bean hasn't necessarily found those superstar players in the first and second rounds like other folks might have. And that may be because the Bills aren't picking at the top of the draft much, but it's still, to me, I think a great feat for Brandon Bean when these guys that they're finding are showing out, from this undrafted status, from these late round pick statuses, Benford and Ingram especially. You had Cam Lewis there today. I thought Johnny Smith ate a little bit uh, over the interior on this defense, but they did. He's
Makes
big,
sense.
and
It also makes sense based off not having Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard.
sure, for sure, 6 catches, 53 yards. So he didn't necessarily dominate, but he definitely had a couple of plays that were good. And um, but yeah, shout out. I mean, everyone in the comments is saying just guys stepping up, and just love the effort from these guys. And Ed Oliver is the consummate professional. I think people thought, oh, he got his money. Was he worth it? Let's say he's worth every dime that he got paid, and then some. And now he seems like he's even more motivated after the fact, which is not common usually. Usually it's, you go, you get your payday, and then, you sometimes see a level off or whatever. And it seems like his trajectory is still increasing, still going up from here. So I love this team, man. I'm thinking like, can this team be deeper even than they were last year when they were labeled the deepest roster in the league? I mean, because now they come in with their backups at both linebacker spots and the nickel and are producing like this against an offense that is very talented. They're missing Mostert, but I don't think that, I think Achan is a very uh, versatile and explosive playmaker. So I mean, I don't think they're missing much in Mostert, but I think they were shut down hard by this team.
The Buffalo Bills are just, I think they're just a well-coached team. They're a well-coached team, and everybody was fortunate enough to stay in the system, and staying in the system provides that progression and development, like I alluded to earlier, with guys like Jamarcus Ingram coming through, and guys like Cam Lewis being able to step up. There, we do have that deep roster, right? The Buffalo Bills, their staff has done a great job finding these type of guys to come in and produce at a high level. We're talking about a Buffalo Bills team that's contending for a Super Bowl. That's our expectation now, year in and year out, and to have these late round picks able to come in and produce and help try to obtain those goals at a high level and be big proponents of football games, I think is a testament of Sean McDermott and our guys being able, excuse me, to develop players, and Brandon Bean's ability to find these players, right? So I think we're off to a good start there. I wanna shift gears a little bit. We can go wherever we want to go. But Built in Buffalo post game show, Peter DiBiase, Lance Nelson, but. Let's talk about some injuries right quick. We saw the first injury, not to say first injury. It was more significant. Let's get into Tua a little bit, right? He had that injury earlier with the concussion. What are your thoughts there? What do you see there? I think he was making bad decisions all night with the football, and I think that was a bad decision on his part. I see nothing dirty with Damar Hamlin and the play he made whatsoever. I just think it's an unfortunate situation, but I think it was a avoidable one, and I think Tua just put himself in a bad situation in harm's way, and unfortunately he had that concussion. What are your thoughts with this injury?
Yeah, Lance, you want to? Oh, Lance, you're muted. You want me to? Okay, I'm gonna go. I can't
Yeah,
hear
go
you,
ahead.
man.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Um,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, look. Before we get to the actual Tua injury, he was not good all night. Right, 3 turnovers. That that first interception was a little bit unfortunate. It kind of bounced off the receiver's shoulder pads. The second one was just a poorly thrown ball, and the third one was just a horrific decision that you just can't make. When
Mhm.
it comes to the injury, first of all, super unfortunate. Hopefully he's okay. Hopefully outside of football, because when he's had the concussions he's had, and now he's had another concussion. We remember the other ones. The broadcast showed the other ones, and we all remember it. It's bigger than football, right? Like, this is at the end of the day just a game. This is more of a guy's livelihood, right? He's still a young guy, not even past 30. You want him to live until his 70s, until his 80s, right? You don't want to have to deal with brain injuries for the rest of his life. So outside of football, I hope he's okay. But when it came to that play, I agree. Not a dirty hit by DeMar, right? Tua still, for some reason, is not is too reckless with his body still, in a sense of the guy that has dealt with a ton of head injuries and a ton of injuries throughout his career. You think that would be the number one thing he would be doing, is taking care of his body. And
Know
in
who you
that
are.
instant,
Know who you are as a quarterback. Know who
yeah,
you're not Josh Allen, bro.
no,
Know
and
who you are.
in that instance, he gets the first down. He's good, but first down by a couple yards. And instead of sliding and going to the next set of downs, driving in a big portion of the game, he decides to lower his shoulder into a safety that is coming in hot. Right? I don't understand the logic behind that. Right? And I think, like you said, Akeem, that's avoidable. Right? Like, sometimes, like when he got sacked against Cincinnati, they won on Thursday Night Football 2 years ago. That was not avoidable, right? That was a tackle by an edge or a D tackle. I forgot who it was that threw him to the ground. That is not avoidable for the most part, outside of maybe your O-line blocking and throwing away. Most of the time, that's not avoidable. But when you're scrambling and you get the first down and you have time to slide, and instead of sliding to get an extra yard or two, after picking up the first down, you decide to lower your shoulder into a safety. That is not taking care of your body, and that is avoidable, and that's super unfortunate. And now it's bigger than just football for him. It's his well-being on a day-to-day purpose.
Yeah, I immediately tweeted that, like, man, I just hope he's okay. It's unfortunate. Um, Definitely a questionable decision on why you're going head first into a defender, um, with your injury history, with the game the way it is. Maybe he's trying to take over at that point. Maybe he's frustrated. I don't know. But um, at the end of the day, it's definitely like, man, I just hope that you're okay as a human being moving forward in your life, which is bigger than football at this point.
Yeah, I agree with both you gentlemen. I hope unfortunate situation at the end of the day, right? With Tua, we hope he gets better sooner rather than later, and we'll see what happens in terms of if he's going to play the next game, right? Because this is Thursday night. He has 10 days, so he has some extended time to get better. So we'll see what happens, and we hope for the best. Let's shift gears to our guy Terrell Bernard. He went down early. I saw the play where he went down and he was pointing to his shoulder and he was laboring there, and it seems like it's a pectoral injury. Um, I've never heard good things with pec injuries. I've never heard good things. What are your thoughts on this injury, and do you think that you know it can possibly be long term? And two, do you think that Bill Inspector can be the guy to play that middle linebacker position and hold that fort down moving forward for the foreseeable future if need be?
Hey, Rich, we are both not doctors, right? I don't think you're a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I went to school for media, so I'm definitely not a doctor. Uh, and I have to kind of read where you kind of get the Twitter doctors on a Thursday night at 11:54, right? Like, you're not going to get the best insight based off what I read. What we are technically hoping for, if it is a pectoral injury, and that's what they kind of announced, is we are hoping for a strain. Because if it's a strain, some guy, based off people on Twitter, it's like 2 to 4 weeks, right? Maybe 5 weeks.
Mm.
A surgery, based off this, you're looking at 3 to 4 months. So 3 to 4 months puts him in line with the Matt Milano kind of timeline, right? December, right? And that's a different conversation than like the one we're having with Teron Johnson, right? When they didn't put Teron Johnson on IR today, basically meaning they think he'll be back before the 4 weeks. Not saying he'll be back for the Jaguars game, but if they would have put him on IR if they don't think he's going to come back in the next couple of weeks. Good sign for Teron Johnson that he'll be back in the next couple of weeks. When it comes to Terrell Bernard, I think you're hoping for a strain, right? I think if it's a pectoral injury, and that's based off what I'm reading on social media, right? This is not from a verified doctor. I have no idea. I'm just trying to kind of piece together a couple things, but the fact that he didn't come back in the game, I guess he was questionable to return, and he obviously never returned. Not a great sign. I think we're probably hoping for a strain. Some people on Twitter said the team called it a peck and that it could potentially be a stinger, which is a big difference because the stinger, you'll be back for Jacksonville. The peck injury, different type of timeline.
Yeah, we'll hope for the best, and we'll see what happens there with the Terrell Bernard injury. But because of that injury and with the Matt Milano injury coming in, how comfortable are you with the Buffalo Bills linebacking core now? We spoke about maybe earlier in the season when we spoke about strengths and weaknesses of the NFL, of our team. One of our strengths was the linebacking core. And I think it's being tested right now. How comfortable are you with Balen Spector, right? And
Yeah.
then he has injury history as well. Can he hold up and can hold the fort down? So how comfortable are you with the Bills linebacking core now?
Not really comfortable, right? Like I think they played pretty well tonight, and Bale Inspector played a lot more snaps than I think McDermott anticipated and than anyone anticipated, right? And I wouldn't say I'm fully comfortable, but it's kind of maybe the hand you're dealt, and that's the best kind of two guys you can put on the roster at the moment. I guess Nicholas Morrow gives you more of that veteran type of presence if you wanted to go down that route, who's on the roster, but I think they would have probably played him tonight if they wanted to go Nicholas Morrow over Bale Inspector. But I'm confident in Dorian Williams. I'm sneakily confident in Dorian Williams because I think at times he's not always in the right spot, but I think for the first 2 weeks, he looks like he's getting more comfortable. He's making plays. I think he's in the right spot at the right time, and he's making good tackles. I'm a little bit more comfortable in Dorian Williams. I don't think Bale Inspector was great tonight, but I also think where Bale Inspector struggled tonight, he just wasn't in the right spot at the right time. I don't think it had anything to do with him not being able to tackle or not being able to pass defend. I just think him just coming in the spur of the moment, I think it kind of threw him for a loop, and I don't think he was in the right spot at the right time. But like, if I had to give a scale of 1 to 10, 10 most confident, 1 not confident at all, I'm probably like right in the middle there. I'm probably like a 5, and I'm probably a 5, and it's kind of like a coin toss for me.
Yeah,
Lance,
sorry there.
Lance, you good? Yep.
Yeah, had a situation, but good. So yeah, Bale Inspector, man. Hopefully he can step in and really be
How
a
confident are you in
factor
that, Lance?
for
If
the.
it's Bale, that's what we were talking about. Bale Inspector and
Nicholas
Dorian Williams.
Morrow, Dorian.
Yeah,
Yep. Dorian
whoever's starting out of those guys, Spector probably and Williams at the moment. Like, how
Mhm.
confident are you in those two guys for
Yeah,
foreseeable
I
future?
mean,
If
I don't know.
if Bernard's out a couple weeks,
Right. They did plenty well tonight. So I mean, like I said, that a
yeah,
lot more comfortable, a lot more confident, given that these guys are um, able to do this to this high power of an offense. Now we'll see when if you have someone who has a running back um, like Jacksonville, who's up on the docket next, and we'll see where they might hand it off 20 times or whatnot. And Achan had 19 carries himself, 22 carries, excuse me. So that is what it was. But I think these guys are gaining trust, and it's encouraging to see them play like that.
Absolutely, I think it is. an encouraging sight for us because we're confident as Buffalo Bills fans, but we know that there's a lot of moving parts when you add it up on both sides of the ball. So when the Buffalo Bills have this success and come out in this fashion and claim victorious, it's definitely refreshing to see. Let's transition over to the offensive side of the ball. Right, the Buffalo Bills defeat the Miami Dolphins by the score of 31-10. James Cook had 3 touchdowns. He looked explosive. He had a 17-yard touchdown. He had a 49-yard scamper for a touchdown. 3 TDs on the night. Let's talk about him and what we saw from him in this Miami Dolphins game. Thoughts on James Cook? Let's kick it right back to the Lance.
Yeah, man, what a game for James Cook. 3 touchdowns, obviously, and 2 on the ground, 1 through the air. And these were the kind of things, 17 yards through the receiving, and then 78 yards on the ground, and 1 long one of 49 yards. I talked a lot about this, and have a clip coming out tomorrow from the show last Friday talking about if the Bills fans and just in general people are kind of sleeping on James Cook and things. So I think that what we wanted to see from James was to be able to hit these kind of home run plays. And that's what we saw tonight. He's making the plays that are given to him. I think he's taking the ball even on the tough short yard. He had that 1 yard touchdown run. He also, those first downs, those second downs, when teams kind of know that the Bills are going to run, it seems like the Bills are predictable in that they're going to run, and he's still taking those handoffs and producing somewhat with them. Would like to see them be a little less predictable at times with some of that, but he's taking that and he's still making something of it. So
yeah, I thought James Cook was super dynamic tonight, right? And I thought we had that Twitter space when we talked on Tuesday, I think it was, and we talked about James Cook and we talked about his usage and when the Bills should use him, did they use him too much, all that kind of stuff, right? And I thought tonight they used him very well situationally, right? And I thought against Arizona at times they didn't use him very well situationally, and I think when he gets the ball, when he's in space, we saw how dynamic he is. That touchdown run he had when they're up 17-7 and he turned the corner and absolutely sprinted by former Buffalo Bill Jordan Poyer after Poyer took a horrendous route to Cook. I think we saw how explosive James Cook could be, right? And look, he was on my fantasy team. I started James Cook in fantasy tonight, and he got me 20 in one of my leagues, 28.5 points. Did not expect that from James Cook tonight, but I think we could even use him even more, right? Only 11 carries, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 catch, 17 yards. But like it wasn't that type of game, right? Like the Bills' second half were always in control. Allen only threw the ball 19 times, only for 139 yards. So it wasn't a really dynamic offensive performance in the sense through the air when they didn't need to be, which is always good when you can win 31-10 and you don't have to rely on Josh Allen to throw the ball 35 times. But I thought James Cook was super dynamic tonight. And I thought this is the type of James Cook that can win you ball games by himself, and he did tonight with those 3 touchdowns.
Absolutely, I think James Cook had a tremendous game, and especially in this type of offense with Joe Brady calling plays, I think it's centered around the short pass attack and centered around having a good running back. And if you're a good running back, you can definitely be one of the better ones in this league with the offense that Joe Brady runs. And I think James Cook early on has proven his worth with his versatility, being able to run between the tackles, finishing plays there, and catching the ball, right? We was all worried about James Cook catching the ball, and in the preseason he had some drops, and we was like, come on, James Cook, are we going to go through these inconsistencies again this season? And so far this season, now that the games count, James Cook has been consistent in taking advantage of all opportunities every time he touches the ball. So I like what James Cook has shown thus far.
No, I think like you said, pass catching has been an issue, right? And we see how dynamic he is when he catches the ball. And he had that nice catch, wasn't hard, but a nice catch on that 4th and 3 play early in the game. The Bills' first drive that led to a touchdown, right? And I think you're right. Joe Brady is centered around the short pass, right? And I don't think we've seen the full array of passing for the Bills yet, right? Maybe a little bit last week. Tonight we did not, right? Shakir 5 catches, but it was Kincaid for 4 for 33, and then Samuel had a catch, Cook had a catch, Ty Johnson had a catch, right? No catches for Matt Collins, no catches for MVS, and no catches for Keon Coleman, right? And I don't think that's going to be normal week in and week out. Numbers might change and guys might change, but 140 yards is not normal for the Buffalo Bills when it comes to Josh Allen. But tonight didn't have to be. And I think when you can win games like this, when you can rely on the run game, it shows you how good this offense can be. Because, Akeem, we know there will be nights where the Bills have to rely on Josh Allen's arm. And he has to throw the ball 30, 35 times. It's going to happen because it's just how the NFL works. But I think tonight, where you only have to throw the ball 19 times, Josh Allen really didn't get hit, which is a huge plus tonight. We didn't have to see Josh Allen run. I know he's super dynamic, but when he doesn't have to run and the Bills can put up 31 points, it's a good thing. And I think we still haven't seen that level of passing game yet. And I think it's a good thing because I think we're still have another gear when it comes to Joe Brady's offense. But I think James Cook is super centered around this offense.
And being Josh Allen only attempted 19 passes, completing 13 of them with 139 yards and a touchdown. This is what we want to see. What are we going to complain about here? The media has been speaking about Josh Allen having to be Superman to win the games, to win these type of games, right? Josh Allen did not have to be Superman tonight, and the Buffalo Bills put on a dominating performance. That is exactly what I would want to see as a fan. I'm now confident in seeing the team perform the way they performed tonight and saying, you know what? Other guys can step up. There are other phases to the game, to the Buffalo Bills game, that can step up and be a big proponent. And Josh Allen doesn't have to put that Superman cape on game in, game out. And I think that's a big confidence booster if you're a Buffalo Bills fan.
No, it is. And because, like I said, there'll be nights where you have to rely on Josh Allen's arm,
right?
Rely on his legs, right? And we saw it potentially last weekend, right? But you're right, Akeem. Like the national media this week was like, well, Josh Allen's great. We know he's great, but does this team rely on him too much to win games? Tonight kind of shut them up a little, right? Like it just be based off how good the defense played, right? And how good James Cook was. And I thought Ray Davis had a couple nice carries. His stat line's not crazy, but I thought he had a couple nice carries. And then you get Shakir, and I feel like Shakir is the type of guy that's just always open. I think tonight 5 catches for 54 yards. I think he's always open. And look, Josh was super efficient with the ball. Didn't make any dumb decisions. Kind of let the game come to him. Maybe that one pass to MVS he would like back, but that was a really tough kind of off-balance throw. Kind of threw it to the wrong side of the shoulder. I think he probably would like that back. Outside of that, I thought Allen was very good. I thought he was clean. And we'll probably get to this, but I thought the O-line through 2 weeks has been a plus. And I think Josh Allen's pocket was pretty clean tonight, but I think the run of the O-line is how good they've been. And I think I saw a couple comments. People are starting to talk about this O-line might be really good.
The Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen are part of the reason why the Miami Dolphins have gone through 3 defensive coordinators in the past 3 seasons, because they're trying to figure out that Josh Allen offensive puzzle. And thus far, it doesn't matter who is calling the plays, they haven't been able to figure that out. So, I think Josh Allen not having to be that superhero for the Buffalo Bills is something that's great to see. I love what I've seen from the offensive line. I think they displayed a physicality there. I think when you have James Cook burst off into runs like that, I think that's because of the offensive line being able to penetrate and open up holes, and now our running back can get downhill and finish the play. And protecting Josh Allen, we was concerned about that hand, and I was concerned as a fan, like how much involvement is Josh Allen going to be in this game, and is his hand going to be affected by it? So, the fact that it wasn't affected by it at all, it was something, it was something great to see. And we have to salute the offensive line a little bit in this game because of the performance that they was able to have today. How much penalties did we have? Maybe one penalty,
Yeah,
no turnovers. So this was a pretty damn good game. I don't remember too many penalties for the Buffalo Bills in this game.
I'm trying to find it right now. Penalties. Bills had 1 penalty for 5 yards. I think it was a false start on Spencer Brown.
Mm.
And the Dolphins, you know what? The Dolphins had 7 penalties for 50 yards.
Yeah.
And last week, look, the Bills were very penalized last week against Arizona. A lot of them were on the offensive line, and I think this week they kind of came together. And then in a week where Josh Allen's a little bit banged up, you didn't want him to have to do too much. I think you walk away from tonight's game thinking Josh Allen didn't have to do too much, right? 19 pass attempts, threw for 140 yards, threw a touchdown, didn't have to run the ball as a quarterback, let James Cook do his thing, and the defense balled out. I think you walk away with very pleased of how this offense played. And then you also now have a handful of days because you don't play till Monday night next week against the Jaguars at home to even just improve, get healthy on some certain positions. Maybe Teron Johnson is back potentially. They didn't put him on the IR. So that is something to monitor potentially next week. And obviously Terrell Bernard's injury. But I think walking away tonight, seeing how good the offensive line played, how good James Cook was, and Allen not having to do too much, I think you're very pleased.
Yeah. I like the overall performance as well. What about let's give the offensive grade. Let's talk about Joe Brady. Give your thoughts on Joe Brady and give your grade on how you think he called the game.
For the most part, I thought Joe Brady was pretty good. I thought there was a couple plays, maybe a couple 3rd and shorts where I thought they got a little too conservative and they just ran the ball up the middle and then got stuffed. One of them, it didn't end up biting them because they converted that 4th and 3 play to James Cook and got a touchdown. Another one later in the game in the second half when they didn't get it. And I thought it didn't really matter, but I thought you needed to be a little bit more creative and just instead of just running the ball up the middle. Something that I didn't see this week that I saw last week was where the Bills ran the ball a lot, and then they get to a certain spot, and then you think it's a good passing down, good play action, and then they would run the ball again and get stuffed. I think I saw them do that once tonight that I remember off the top of my head. They didn't do that. They weren't too easy to read, and I thought they were not super aggressive, and I thought they kind of took what the defense gave them. I would give Joe Brady, I would give him an A-, right? Because just because they weren't. Look, 24 points on offense is a good night. You're going to win a lot of football games, putting up 24 points for the most part in the National Football League. But I think maybe a couple more explosive plays through the air is probably where you get to yourself to an A or A+, but I think an A-. I thought he was very good tonight, and I thought he kind of fixed that issue of being too easy to read and being easy to identify on those run plays that we saw in Arizona last week that we didn't see this week or tonight.
So Dawson Kincaid got involved early, right? And I thought that was a good thing, right? And then I thought about, it reminded me how he was getting involved. It reminded me kind of like Stephon Diggs last year. We was trying to run those bubble screens early on in the games last year to get Stephon Diggs involved, and I liked it, but I also had some concerns because we used that again with Stephon Diggs, but he never really got involved within the offense. What do you think about Kincaid's involvement within the offense? Do you have any concerns there with his involvement, or do you think that he will continue to develop and progress as the season continues within the offense?
They got him involved early, and then he kind of got kicked in the head on one of those plays when he was kind of laying down, and I thought he went out for a couple plays and then came back in. But no, they got him involved early, and I like that. And I think when I was reading some of the things heading into tonight, last week against Jacksonville, Miami completely took away the middle of the field against Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram, who is a really good tight end, had a really good year last year, was a non-factor last week against Miami from Jacksonville. And I thought, maybe they'll try to take away the middle of the field against Dalton Kincaid. I just think the game just never really set up for Dalton Kincaid. And look, he got 4 targets, 4 catches for 33 yards. A lot of them were kind of him, the bubble screens and him having to make a play with it. And he did. There's a couple of those short passes he took for 7, 8, 9 yards. And I thought that was very good. I'm not concerned because you won the game and you won last week's game. I'm not concerned. But I do think they need him to get the ball over the middle of the field to him because I think he's such a game changer with the ball. When we saw that in those couple bubble screens, how he took a potential 2-3 yard play, made it into an 8-9 yard play. So I think he's super dynamic, and I think you need to get him the ball in the middle of the field. I am not concerned. I would be concerned if we were talking, where was the Bills passing game tonight? They lost tonight, all that kind of stuff. When you score 31 points, we shouldn't be concerned. But I do think they need to get Dalton Kincaid involved a little more. And I do think they need to get Keon Coleman involved a little more. But a lot of the time tonight was Jalen Ramsey was on Keon Coleman, and that's a tough matchup for a rookie. And it's probably good maybe that Allen didn't force it and just kind of took what the defense gave him.
Yeah, 100%, and sometimes you just got to go with the flow of the game, and the flow of the game presented itself where the Buffalo Bills was able to set the tone defensively and get the ball early, and they was able to capitalize from there. And I think the flow of today's game is a proponent onto why certain offensive statistics were the way they were. So overall, I when you score 31 points and you have the success that you had, and you start off 2-0, and with this type of team, and answering a lot of questions early, I think we're nitpicking a little bit in terms of what can be better in terms of Joe Brady and his predictability. I think that on the flip side, I would love to see him go down the field more. That's the one thing within Joe Brady's offense. I just want to see him go down the field. Let us know that you can stretch the field when need be. So I think that will continue to evolve as the season continues. But thus far, I gotta give you credit there, because I'm gonna agree. I think it's an A-. I think that's spot on with Joe Brady's performance.
I think there's another gear to this passing offense. I really do. And I think the game, like we both mentioned, didn't really call for that tonight, right? If you're going to run the ball with James Cook for 7 yards a carry, you're not going to have to take deep shots. But I do agree. I think we probably need to see that. They tried one with MVS at some point in the game, but it was kind of like a broken play, and Allen scrambled and just couldn't connect. But Keon Coleman's that guy. And I think Dalton Kincaid in the middle of the field. And I think it's maybe the turf toe. I would like Curtis Samuel to get involved a little bit more. And maybe it could be the injury, right? And maybe this extended rest heading into Jacksonville, or heading into the Jacksonville game on Monday night. So Bills have a handful of days more than they kind of called it a mini bye almost, right? Maybe Curtis Samuel can kind of get fully back to being healthy. But I think he is a guy where you can get him the ball in space and he can make a guy miss and be a game changer. And I think we haven't seen that yet. And we saw what Keon Coleman can do week 1. We didn't really see it tonight, but I think it's going to be different guys every week. And I do think probably Kincaid probably needs to get involved. And I think maybe be a little bit more creative with Curtis Samuel. And they kind of said that over the summer. Joe Brady kind of mentioned that we're going to try to use Curtis Samuel in different facets. We haven't seen that yet. And for my opinion, I'm going to put that towards the turf toe injury until I see otherwise, I guess.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would love to get Curtis Samuel involved as well. I seen him out on the field. He's out there, mostly looking like a decoy thus far. But his involvement, he's still within, relatively new on the team and within the offense, even though he was with Joe Brady in the past. I think he will get healthy. The Buffalo Bills even have that extra day. We're playing Monday night as opposed to going back from Thursday to Sunday. They play Monday night against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I think that will help. And hopefully we can get some healthy bodies. We're going to see the diagnosis on guys like Terrell Bernard and Teron Johnson, where they stand on their injury standpoints. But overall, I think it was a successful outing for the Buffalo Bills, going down to Miami and having this type of performance offensively and defensively, where everybody was able to chip in and come away with the victory, as opposed to leaning on one guy. So it was great to see the team win in this facet, in a team way, and it was great to see the Buffalo Bills win under Josh Allen's arm and legs last week. So the Buffalo Bills are proving that they can win in a multitude of ways.
Yeah, and the final thing on Teron Johnson, I think him not being put on IR today is a good sign, right? Like, I think if he was put on IR, obviously he would miss the next 4 games, including tonight. But the fact that he's not on IR makes me feel like they expect him to be back. Maybe not to Jacksonville on Monday night, but maybe Baltimore the week after. So I think that's a good sign that he's probably more 1 to 2 week away instead of 3 to 4 weeks. And there's a chance he plays next Monday. I'm not a doctor, but if they didn't think he had any chance to play in the next week or two or the next 1 to 2 weeks, they would have put him on IR. So him not being on IR is a very good sign.
I agree 100%. The Buffalo Bills defeats the Miami Dolphins, and people are, I've been seeing the word rivalry. I think, the other team has to win. I think wins have to be an involvement between both teams to consider something a rivalry. And right now, the Buffalo Bills are dominating this divisional foe, so to speak, as opposed to rivalry with this another dominating performance, 31-10. Peter, you got anything else to say or anything else you want to chime in on before we get out of here?
No, I just think tonight was kind of a statement win, right? And look, it's week 2. The Bills still have 15 more games to go. They obviously they need to string together wins and keep going with this momentum. But to go into a Thursday night game on the road, most of the national media is picking Miami. Miami's favored by 2.5. Everyone's on the Dolphins, and to not even just win the game, Akeem, but to embarrass them, to blow them out, to dominate them is a good sign. And I think, like I said earlier in the show, I think if you flip on First Take or if you flip on Fox Sports 1 tomorrow, any of those national media kind of shows that I try to avoid, but if that's part of your daily routine and you flip that on, I think you're going to have a lot of people jumping on the Bills bandwagon. And you know what? Just a little bit too late, right? You jump on before the year. Don't jump on now. But I think the Bills had a statement win tonight. Now they have an extended rest, and we're hoping for somewhat good news with Terrell Bernard.
I think the Buffalo Bills, once again, I think it's putting the national media and the outsiders, that don't know about the Buffalo Bills and don't usually follow the Buffalo Bills or notice. Once again, we're coming out. Everybody talk about how we got worse, and talk about the New York Jets becoming the new AFC East champs and the Miami Dolphins becoming the new AFC East champs, kind of like throwing the Buffalo Bills to the wayside. And we got all these new players and Jordan Poyer's in Miami, and we're coming out and we're doing what we have to do, and we're doing what we've been doing the last 5 seasons, and that's winning ball games. And that's a big testament to, Brandon Beane showing the ability to be able to draft and have guys like Jamarcus Ingram and Cam Lewis and Dorian Williams and Terrell Bernard and AJ Epinesa make plays. And I think that's a testament to Sean McDermott to be able to take these guys in, develop and progress, and coach these guys up so they can be prepared for the situations that they're going to be in the future. Talk about Jamarcus Ingram making one of the biggest plays of his young career last week. And I think that's a testament to good coaching. So thus far, I'm ecstatic to what I've seen from the Buffalo Bills, and it's 2-0, and we're going to enjoy this. But it's on to the next game after a while, right? We've had trouble with the Jacksonville Jaguars in back-to-back season, whether it was Doug Peterson or Urban Meyer. The Jacksonville Jaguars have had success against the Buffalo Bills, and we've had bad luck playing them with injuries going down as well. So hopefully we can get some healthy bodies up and get prepared for this next ball game against another tough opponent in the Jacksonville Jaguars. But let's enjoy this one, Peter. And if you don't got anything else to say, we're gonna get out of here.
No, yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. I know Lance had to step away, but I appreciate you guys having me on. But one final thing that I just found on Twitter, a quick quote from Josh Allen. It's 5 words. He said, "Guys don't care about the credit." And I'm not saying that's a shot at anybody, but you might be saying, and people on Twitter are definitely saying because it's Twitter. But I think that's an interesting statement, and I think you see that in the receiving room with different guys showing up each week. But I think this team maybe has a little bit more of that team culture that maybe the last couple of years maybe didn't have, and maybe we thought they had, but maybe this year's team actually has it.
That Week 5 game against the Houston Texans is going to be I'm surprised that's not a primetime game, man. But that should
What is
be
it, like a 4:25 game? I think it is.
I believe so. I believe it's a 4 point.
Well, the Bills are on primetime. They were on primetime tonight. They're on primetime Monday night
Monday night.
next week, and then they go on Sunday night against Baltimore.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we
Can't give them all. Can't give them all.
we got some late nights coming up.
Can't give them all. But yeah,
Nah.
excellent victory for the Buffalo Bills. Once again, the Buffalo Bills defeats the divisional foe, the Miami Dolphins, by the score of 31-10. I'm Akeem Richins. Shout out my boy Lance Nelson. Hopefully he getting taken care of or whatever he needs to take care of. My boy Peter DiBiase, I'm appreciative once again for you to come on with the Buffalo Bill family and Bills and Buffalo's family and do this post game, man. So once again, from Peter, Rich, Bills and Buffalo. Till next time, Bills over the Dolphins, 31-10. Go Bills.
Go Bills.